I know that some of our speakers will have to leave early, so we will begin immediately. And it's my pleasure then to introduce the two first speakers. And it's Andreas Bjelland Eriksen. He is Minister of Climate and Environment of Norway. And Jennifer R. Littlejohn, Acting Assistant Secretary, Bureau of Oceans and International Environmental and Scientific Affairs at the U.S. State Department. So, Minister Bjelland Eriksen, you have the floor, sir.
Thank you, Special Envoy Pascal, for that introduction. And it is an honor to be with you here today and welcome you to this event. First, I would like to thank the organizers, the World Resource Institute and the UN Office on Drugs and Crime for your hard efforts to realize this event, as well to the United States as co-chair of the Nature Crime Alliance. Then I would like to extend a special welcome to the new members of the Alliance. Since the launch last August, we have seen a steady increase in new members, and this is important as the Alliance is only as strong as our combined efforts. Nature crime is one of the largest illicit economies of the world, and it is big money. The financial value of these crimes is estimated at hundreds of billions of US dollars annually. Organized criminals networks seek opportunities across sectors, and illicit flows of goods and capital drains developing countries of public resources and undermine the trust in the rule of law, national institutions, and democratic processes. We see that nature crime, closely linked with other serious crimes, jeopardize local and regional development, violate human rights, and hampers effective action in addressing the global biodiversity and climate crisis. Let me list some examples of these nature crimes. Illegal logging is a big issue in many countries. Between 50 and 85% of deforestation in key tropical forest countries is estimated to be illegal. Illegal mining is another significant nature crime. Much of the illegal mining involves pollution through extensive use of toxic chemicals, mercury, arsenic, and cyanide, with severe impact on nature and local people, including indigenous groups. Illegal, unregulated, and unreported fishing poses a significant threat to marine ecosystems and livelihoods of coastal communities. A key issue is the interlinkage between nature crime and other forms of crime. Companies and networks who exploit natural resources illegally also perpetrates crimes such as corruption, tax evasion, document fraud, and money laundering. Without proper financial control, proceeds from nature crime are easily transferred among jurisdictions. Nature crime are also linked to human rights violations, drug cartels, and the financing of rebel and other criminal groups, threatening security, causing instability and social unrest. Because nature crimes are interlinked with other serious forms of crimes, they must also be addressed across sectors of governments. So then, what can be done? Well, we need a stronger criminal justice response, clearer political visibility, cross-border collaboration to investigate, disrupt, and prosecute criminal networks. We need to support and safeguard the voices of civil society who expose nature crime. And finally, we need to learn from what works. Many countries, including those in the panel and audience here today, are at the forefront in fighting organized nature crime, and we have much to learn from them. From our corner of the world, Norway is supporting initiatives that aim to strengthen cross-border law enforcement operations targeting nature crime. Civil society organizations and investigative journalists that work to detect and expose criminal actors profiting from nature crime. Open access to high-resolution satellite imagery that can be used by law enforcement and civil society to monitor and act on tropical deforestation, including illegal activities. Through our bilateral partnerships on rainforest protection, partner countries have done impressive work in stopping criminal networks profiting from illegal deforestation. And finally, I want to emphasize the importance of multi-sector networks like the Nature Crime Alliance that aims to increase the political will and strengthen the operational capacity to fight nature crime. Over the next hour, we will learn about challenges and successes in efforts to stop organized nature crime. I hope this session will provide meaningful and useful to you. Thank you very much for your attention.
Lower this a little bit. Good evening, everyone. All right. So thank you, Ambassador Bratskar and Minister Eriksson, as well as your excellencies and distinguished colleagues and friends. We are delighted to continue our strong collaboration with Norway as co-chair of the Nature Crime Alliance Steering Committee. As I said at the launch of the alliance last August, there would be no Nature Crime Alliance without your leadership. And on behalf of the United States, thank you. Thank you. It is a pleasure to partner with you, the UN Office on Drugs and Crime and the World Resources Institute, which hosts the Nature Crime Alliance Secretariat. It is, for everyone who has joined us today, a welcoming moment, especially the new members amongst us. Welcome. Nature crimes, wildlife and timber trafficking, illegal mining, illegal land conversion, as well as crimes associated with fishing can devastate our people and our planet. They threaten national security, undermine rule of law, fuel corruption, destroy ecosystems, drive species to the brink of extinction, and spread disease. Nature crimes often converge with other criminal activities, such as drugs and weapon trafficking and trafficking in persons. All the while, illicit proceeds from nature crimes line the pockets of transnational criminals and criminal syndicates that prey upon the world's most vulnerable. Now, I'm talking about human rights abuses, including forced labor on fishing vessels. Illegal deforestation deprives communities of vital resources and also contributes to carbon emissions. In addition, illegal mining can lead to mercury contamination and heavy metal and chemical releases from tailing ponds that damage human and environmental health. While we continue to pursue distinct efforts to address each type of nature crime, we must also strategically address them as a group. The United States has an internal U.S. government initiative to do just that. We identify areas of crime convergence and target approaches and policy responses to broadly address nature crimes. We target common bad actors and choke points, and we leverage new tools and technologies. We build journalists' capacity to report on nature crimes and disrupt money laundering and illicit financial flows associated with nature crimes. And if you'll allow, I'll provide a few examples. The U.S. Agency for International Development invests about $100 million a year to support national, regional, and global responses to nature crimes. In 2023, USAID launched Countering Nature Crime, a $25 million global partnership to reduce illegal harvest and trade of fish, timber, and wildlife, as well as illegal deforestation. Now, the partnership engages with law enforcement agencies, industry associations, and indigenous communities, journalists, and other environmental defenders. The State Department provides tens of millions of dollars annually to strengthen criminal justice systems to combat nature crimes around the world, including $50 million a year to target wildlife trafficking. Under another program, last year, we trained a network of 100 journalists in Latin America, Africa, and Asia to investigate and expose nature crimes. Recently, we established a 2-year program to give local communities in these regions the tools they need to identify and combat transnational organized criminal networks engaged in nature crimes. Now, we also employ sanctions and other tools to prevent traffickers from using the United States as a transit point for organized crime. We restrict U.S. travel for wildlife and timber traffickers, including by denying them visas. And we encourage our other countries to take similar steps to deny market access to these criminals and to impose real penalties for their actions. Now is the time to scale up our collective efforts to break down silos to fight nature crimes globally. The Alliance can help. It provides a platform for exchanges on best practices, technical support, resources, and financing, opportunities, and fosters adoption of tools and technologies to improve the responses to nature crimes. It organizes private sector dialogues to strengthen the capacity of financial intelligence units and private sector institutions to detect and disrupt financial crimes linked to nature crimes. The beauty of the Alliance is that it leverages progress that has already been made, which allows us to do more with limited resources. Over the next hour, we will learn about what works, and our panelists will share successes from the field and the role of Indigenous communities and frontline defenders in tackling nature crime. We will also hear how law enforcement practices to combat nature crimes have developed around the world. They may also have some ideas about what the Alliance can do to support these efforts. Now, the United States is committed to combating nature crimes, and we are proud to be a founding government member of the Nature Crime Alliance, whose launch marked a pivotal step in our efforts to safeguard people, places, and nature. I want to congratulate the members who have recently joined the Alliance, and we look forward to welcoming even more members today and into the future. We look forward to working with all of you. Thank you.
Thank you so much to Acting Assistant Secretary Jennifer R. Littlejohn and Minister Andreas Bjelland Eriksen for setting the stage so fully for us and opening up what I know will be a very interesting and exciting evening. So thank you so much to both of you. We will now have a very eminent panel. As I said earlier, people are a little late starting, and people also have other things pulling them here and there. So we will try to make this as concise as possible. But it's my pleasure to first invite Elizabeth Maruma Merema, Deputy Executive Director of UNEP, to speak, followed by Hervé Berville, Minister of State for Marine Affairs and Biodiversity of France. Then Dr. Michael Usi, Minister of Natural Resources and Climate Change of Malawi. And then John M. Alote, Chief Executive of the Forest Commission of Ghana. So I will start with the Deputy Executive Director. Please take the floor, Elizabeth.
Good evening to all distinguished guests. Allow me to recognize all the distinguished panelist speakers I am with, the minister, the ministers, the Assistant Secretary General. Thank you very much. And distinguished colleagues, friends, guests. I'm not sure if I have more to say, especially after the two speakers who have already given us the scaring statistics of the magnitude of nature crime out there. Where the profits are high, it means then the crime rate is equally high. And as we say, and also statistics have proven, crime against nature is actually crime against all of us, because at the end of the day, each one of us will suffer. And sadly, even according to our own joint UNEP-Interpol investigation done some years back, we found out that environmental crime is the fourth largest criminal activity in the world. And it is growing at the rate of 5 to 7% each year. The Minister Norway had mentioned the magnitude of illegal fishing, which takes over $36 billion worth of stock from the oceans annually. This is the amount of money which would have been useful for the economic development of the countries. Illegal logging accounts for about 30% of the global timber trade, contributing to carbon dioxide emissions as well as biodiversity loss. And IPBES had already informed us that we are almost losing 1 million species threatened with extinction within this century. And these species, which are a source of food, medicine, life-sustaining services like pollination. So for UNEP, we are delighted to join the Nature Crime Alliance because, as had been indicated, without working together, no single country can deal with such a crime of such magnitude. And this is also the latest step in our long history battling with nature crime. But Hans, I was rather surprised getting into this room, and I was talking to my colleague, head of the Secretariat of the Convention on International Illegal Trade on the Endangered Species of Wild Fauna and Flora, CITES, that she has never heard of this alliance. And CITES is one of the global environmental agreement which regulates trade in endangered species of wild fauna. Yes, there is a legal trade and illegal trade. And this agreement, which regulates that trade through its 3 appendices, with the first appendix which basically gives a total ban of any trade on specific species. And where then it's not working clearly, then it means we open doors for illegal trade. So Hans, please, if CITES is not on the board, I will be rather worried because we need them, and that instrument will help in curbing nature crime which we are dealing with. Again, working together. And CITES is a global flagship entity in dealing with wildlife crime. And CITES is also very instrumental within our UNEP program, what we call Green Customs Initiative, which also helps to prevent illegal trade in environmentally sensitive commodities. And here targeting specifically the customs officials as a key enforcement, particularly when it comes to border trade. When we talk of international trade, our porous borders become the entry points and the exit points. And this is where this customs program comes in, which CITES is instrumental. And I can speak for CITES also working with Interpol and other partners through what do we call? IQUIC. No, not everybody understands IQUIC. What's the acronym stands for? Perfect. So literally fighting these types of complexities, and they've already been alluded. We are talking of species, fish, timber, and of course connected rightly so with money laundering. So it's a big business, but illegal business. And it needs all of us, all entities, all stakeholders to work with, and especially our communities. And was mentioned here, our indigenous peoples and local communities, the communities who live with, in these areas where the wildlife, for instance, are, where the timber is. So if they are not engaged, actually they will provide the open door for criminal activities, which then we need to deal with. And this is where then we really need to enhance collaboration between government agencies. I've only mentioned customs, but customs cannot work without police. Police cannot work without prosecutors who takes the matters to court. And of course, we need the private sector. That's where it can be called a business, but a business with a question mark. Airlines, shipping, online sellers, there are all these means which are used by illegal traders. We must also, and we need to get the buy-in, the support, as I said, and advise of our indigenous peoples and local communities who are at the forefront of protecting nature and who unfortunately bear the brunt of the crimes against that nature. We here in UNEP, we are committed to work with all partners to deter, to disrupt, and get those criminals be punished, the nature criminals. And we urge for stronger legislation, stronger enforcement mechanism, backed by transparent data. Together, we can really strike a powerful blow in the name of justice, people, and planet. Thank you.
Bonsoir. Hi. So I'm really sorry. I will have to rush a little bit, not because I want to join the party over there, but because I have the ministerial meeting, and it's quite important. It's as important as what we're discussing right now. So I'll do not, I don't know, half of what I wanted to say, but I'm pretty sure during the conversation, and my team is over there from France. All the people who can raise your hand. If you have any question after, in terms of financial contribution, in terms of cooperation, you just go and see them. Now, I'm really happy to be here, and thank you very much, first of all, the Deputy Director for being here, for your speech. Thank you very much to the United Nations. Thank you very much for Norway, for organizing it. And thank you very much, of course, to the UN DOC for, of course, combating on a daily basis the diverse crime, but for organizing this and making sure that at this United Nations Environment Assembly, we put the fight against nature crime a priority of our mobilization, a priority of also our political will. So that's a real pleasure for France and for me for being here. And I would like also to really thank all the members of the civil society, all the diplomats, all the people working on UNEA-6 and doing a really complicated job and dangerous job also, because we know that when you have to come back, tackle the crime, you put your life also on the line. So I really wanted to thank you for that, because we know that it's a really dangerous job, and I think we can give you a round of applause for that. So I'm very glad to be here with you today to exchange on common action to address crime that affect the environment, since these crimes are the third most lucrative criminal activity in the world, with profit estimated to up to 281 billion per year. And for me, there is three priorities to be able to tackle those crimes. First is political mobilization. That's why we're here, and that's why we need to continue doing, especially in big electoral years. Second big pillar for me, it's financial contribution and mobilization, and also strengthening the legislation. But the two goes hand with hand. If you have a stronger regulation, stronger legislation, you need also financial contribution, additional resources to be able to just reinforce this legislation. And the third big pillar for me and for France is the effective cooperation. And that's why I'm really pleased to be here. I'm really pleased that there is this Nature's Crime Alliance, because we need to talk to each other. We need to make sure that the different police, the different judiciary organization and body, we all talk together, because it's cross boundaries and cross-sectorial criminality, and not one single country, even if it's really powerful, will be able to tackle by itself this kind of criminality. Fighting against wildlife trafficking, illegal logging and fishing, illegal waste trafficking or illegal mineral exploitation, and predatory action of certain organized crime is therefore essential. They all endanger not only biodiversity and the survival of our ecosystem, but also our health, prosperity, and collective security. Criminals today benefit from a sort of impunity due to the lack of specific criminalization, insufficient ad hoc training for law enforcement officers and prosecutors, and shortcoming of international cooperation in this field. To tackle such threats, France has put in place at national level 2 central offices with centralized jurisdiction working jointly. At the international level, we have advocated for a consensual United Nations definition and collective recognition of the seriousness of environmental crimes and the wide range of activities they encompass. This objective has been pursued in conjunction with the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime, with whom we set a joint action plan. We also co-organized 2 side events on the link between environmental crime, corruption, and climate change, respectively at the 10th COP of the United Nations Convention Against Corruption and at the COP28. And we discussed about the necessity to ramp up, to step up on the fight against corruption. To make further progress, the creation of the Nature Crime Alliance is to be welcomed since it will foster political engagement, raise international awareness, and bolster operational capacity. Today's side event creates also for us a momentum towards promoting the issue of crime that affect the environment in many multilateral environment arenas on which we want to capitalize. And for me, there is one key issue, especially in regards of the organization by Costa Rica and France of the United Nations Ocean Conference in 2025. You all marked this on your calendar, 9th of June 2025. There is a high-level panel and summit in Costa Rica, San Jose in June of this year. And we really want to make sure that out of the 5 pillars of this United Nations Ocean Conference, which is the first one, making sure that we ratify the Biodiversity Beyond Natural Generation Treaty. The third one, making sure we move forward on the Plastic Treaty. The third one, that we accelerate on the decarbonization on the maritime transport. The fourth one, that we pause on deep sea mining, because it's also threatening the health of the ocean and the health of the climate. And the last one is making sure that we tackle illegal fishing, overfishing. And on this, I have an example in Guyane. Guyane is a territory of France in Amazonia, and it's a territory who faced over the last 10 years a really terrible illegal fishing. And it was not only endangering the biodiversity, but it was also endangering the sovereignty, the capacity of the local community just to live from the ocean. So 3 years ago, we put in place kind of like a joint plan with also our neighbor, with Brazil, with Suriname, to make sure we can tackle this illegal fishing. First of all, we put in place new boats, new capacity of arresting and combating those small boats who were really fishing with nets of 20 kilometers. So you can imagine, even if it's a huge territories with nets of 20 kilometers, you can destroy in less than 2 years the biodiversity. And I'm a huge fan of marine turtle. Who loves marine turtle? Okay, I loved it. And because of the illegal fishing, in Guyane, in less than 10 years, 90% of the marine turtle disappeared in this place. So that's why for us it was really a priority, because it was also endangering and putting on the brink of the extinction other species that were not fished by illegal fisher. So we put in place this joint task force to combat illegal fishing. We also use, and it was also in the Nature Crime Alliance, more technologies. So we use the satellite technology to make sure that we can apprehend much better, much faster the illegal fishermen. We also, and that was something really key in our strategy, put in place new capacity for the judiciary bodies, making sure that when they arrest, they can be prosecuted really quickly. And we also did something that at the beginning was not something really obvious, in that we created a strategy to have legal fishermen. Because as we say in French, la nature a horreur du vide. Nature hates emptiness. And there were the capacity for those illegal fishermen to be there because there were no boats from this local region. So we developed also a strategy for legal fishing to making sure they can also benefit from the ocean. So as you can see, and as you perfectly described, it's a whole strategy, a strategy also of cooperation, and also a strategy of developing and cooperation with foreign aid, because they were like fishermen from a poorer country, and we needed also to help those communities to get a better life, and not for them to come in our territories to do illegal fishing. So it's also a story of justice, of also sharing the benefit of the growth, and also a story of not having a territory rich and another one being on the brink of the poverty. So on this really key element for us of tackling nature crime, France will make it a key issue in different upcoming fora. I think in particular about the 5th Crime Congress that will take place in Abu Dhabi in 2026, or a side event at the 67th Commission on Narcotic Drugs next March, or by tackling these issues during the co-facilitation of the Congo Basin Forest Partnership with Gabon. We are also looking forward to the UNODC global analysis on environmental crime to be published in 2024. So we're really looking forward to read it. And it will be another occasion to raise awareness and political interest on that matter. We need also to use the next International Union for Conservation of Nature Congress in Dubai in 2025 to build on the environmental crime notion that was adopted at the IUCN Congress in Marseille. All those opportunities will feed our agenda, will make sure that we continue the political mobilization, that we increase the financial contribution, that we strengthen the legislation, and we continue to get effective cooperation to combat this crime and to make sure that they do not harm the future of our kids and the future generation. So thank you very much. I told you that was not really long. Imagine if I said I would be long. But it's a really important matter. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I wasn't very sure whether I should come here and make a speech or just say I agree with the previous speakers and go and sit down. Malawi has joined the alliance because we think that it is very, very important. When we talk about nature crime, we are dealing with people that have developed expertise in this crime, and it's not easy to uproot them. We are also dealing with people that are not yet beyond redemption. They are still new in the trade, and this is the opportunity that we can exploit to break the cycle. This type of crime, as alluded by the previous speakers, does deprive national states of the valuable economy. And also, it breeds hardcore criminals. Because what we have noticed in the case of Malawi, we have people coming with huge sums of money, conniving with the local people, so that they enable the transportation, say, of minerals, logging. Now, when the local people have developed expertise, they become more dangerous than those that come from outside. So this is the opportune time to deal with these criminals, especially those that are still green. Now, it is also very important to realize that as we draft the strategies, we should take into account the motivation factors of the local people to participate in these criminal acts. I'm saying this because we have realized in Malawi that the money, the resources that you use to divert these green criminals to doing some other income-generating activities is much less than the damage that they make if they go unchecked. So this is the time for us to act. And I would also call upon us all to come up with very clear tools for monitoring so that we know that we are going to win. We should not wait till we realize that we are going nowhere. Because as we say, this is a joint action to fight the crime. There are also those that are joining hands for the crime. And they are going to even fund their crime. So it is very critical that we don't take anything for granted. Action research is very, very critical because we'll be learning as we implement. There are other things that we do not know now. We should avoid taking things for granted or assuming, because criminals are many times one step ahead of the law enforcers. Another important subject that I want to introduce is corruption. Corruption is very, very critical. Critical in the sense that if we do not tackle corruption, it's going to be difficult to fight this vice. Because there are those that will benefit a little something and cause a very big damage. So it is important that we should understand the diversities that take place in respective cultures. This shouldn't be, as I was talking with Hans, that it shouldn't be seen as a program that has been parachuted from elsewhere onto the local communities. It should be like Malawi. We are going to ensure that Malawians understand the reason for us participating in the fight, so that they are not getting into this fight because government has said so, but because they understand the meaning of the fight in terms of Malawi's development. It is therefore very important for us all to work together and ensure that the knowledge management system is supported. Lessons learned in Malawi should benefit Zambians, should benefit Uganda, should benefit Ethiopia. We should not undermine the value of knowledge management, because it's a critical discipline that will help us move forward. So Malawi has joined the alliance because we understand it is what is going to help Malawi survive and live a life. And our vision 2063, which is the guiding blueprint for our development, says leave no one behind. So Malawi would want to be in the driving seat. I thank you all.
Good evening. I wish to extend my sincere gratitude to the co-chairs and members of the Nature Crime Alliance for the warm welcome and opportunity for Ghana to be a member of this alliance and to participate in today's meeting. Our convergence today signifies a timely partnership among governments, advocates, activists, other institutions, and most importantly, citizens of the earth who are concerned about the threats of the triple crisis of climate change, pollution, and biodiversity loss. Many thanks to the governments of Norway and the United States, the WRI, and the UNEP for championing this cause to echo the voice of nature for justice in this global battle. Ghana acknowledges the profound significance of a forest, aquatic, and natural heritage. They are not mere landscapes. They are our lifeblood, regulating our climate, sustaining our environment, and hosting the breathtaking tapestry of biodiversity. From illegal logging, illegal mining, and unsustainable agricultural practices that scar our lands, to wildlife trafficking, and that decimates our iconic species, nature crimes are manifested in diverse ways. For us, and I believe for many others, these acts are not just violations of law, but assaults on our future, threatening our environment, biodiversity, and the lives and livelihoods of millions of people whilst robbing us of the resource needed for development. Over the years, we have been working with local communities, the private sector, the NGOs and civil societies, and international partners on several critical initiatives to combat nature crimes. At the heart of these initiatives, we have come to realize the power of local communities to significantly help curb these crimes in collaboration with government. This power depends on the relative valuation of natural capital to support their livelihoods and be a means of a sustainable and integrated livelihood. The willingness to pay nature custodians to prevent the drivers of nature crimes is therefore a strong determinant in preventing the loss of critical forests and biodiversity habitats. It is therefore imperative to mention clearly that to address nature crimes is to make available the needed technical and financial resources at scale to implement tested and known solutions that empower local communities and other stakeholders. In this regard, Ghana represents the global voice for tropical forest in promoting actions of REDD+, which is reduction in deforestation and then forest degradation. We have been doing this by deploying different financial instruments, including carbon markets, to attract payments for emission reductions and removals. However, the global inconsistencies in raising and committing to deliver nature finance at scale and on time is a huge challenge, and we believe that also constitute nature crimes. Paying low prices for carbon and undervaluing the importance of ecosystem services is the current nature crime that Ghana is considering, and we call attention to this. In many instances, perpetrators of nature crimes, especially at the grassroots and local levels, do so as a means of livelihood. In the absence of viable alternatives and diversified incomes, nature crimes will still persist. On this score, Ghana is happy to be part of the Forest Carbon Leadership Partnership and also to have signed on the LEAF coalition. We have also signed an agreement with the European Union to implement the forest law enforcement, governance, and trade, which will seek to reduce or eliminate completely the illegal timber onto the EU market. The impact of nature crimes, like their perpetrators, transcend territorial borders and require collaborative and concerted efforts to deal with them. That is why we are happy to be part of this alliance. To achieve impact at scale and realize our goal, countries like Ghana that are actively working to reverse the trend of deforestation, forest degradation, and other nature crimes must be supported as they implement their own nature-based solutions. Our voices must be recognized on what we represent. And as we seek to avert catastrophic climate change, we also expect that financial and technical support be provided. Combating nature crimes is within our reach, but how soon we succeed depends on the level of commitment we bring to the table. We in Ghana look forward to this alliance being a great platform to champion nature crime prevention, and we will work with this alliance and to provide the necessary support when needed. I will take this opportunity to thank you for your attention, and we hope that Ghana will be supported in its work towards preventing nature crimes. Thank you.
Then a very big thank you to all our distinguished panelists. Thank you so much. And a very warm welcome to UNEP and Malawi and Ghana to the Nature Crime Alliance. And as acting Assistant Secretary Littlejohn said, we are very much ready to welcome more members as well. And I hope this evening will inspire many of you to consider doing that. And to the Deputy Executive Director, we always listen to your advice, Elizabeth. I hope you know that. And CITES is certainly very much on our minds, and we promise to engage with all actors that want to work for the good cause, so to speak. We will now make a change on the scene here, so ask the panelists to, again, very warm thank you to you, and please take your seats. And big responsibility will lie on the moderators for keeping things on track as much as possible. We will have 2 panels as the next part of this event. We will start with a panel on voices from governments and international organizations on what works when fighting nature crime. This will be moderated by Neil Walsh, UNODC's regional representative for Eastern Africa. When Neil and his group is done, we will then have a panel on civil society perspectives on crime convergence and frontline defenders, and that will be moderated by Mr. Taye Teferi, and he is the acting senior regional director of Africa for traffic. Neil, you are first. Okay, thank you.
Well, thank you very much. Good evening, everybody. And a little change around just to push us forward a bit. And keeping people to 3 to 5 minutes, what could possibly go wrong? So thanks for being here. Thanks for giving us your attention, and especially for listening to the opening statements. It's lovely to hear ministers who have got a real grip of their subject area. So this panel, we are going to discuss principally what works when fighting nature crimes, voices from government and from international organisations. As I said, I'm Neil Walsh. I'm the regional representative of the UN's Office on Drugs and Crime, based here in Nairobi and covering in Eastern Africa. And tonight you're going to hear from Sylvia Musea, who is our Principal Secretary from the State Department of the Government of Kenya, Aphrodite Samagadi, who is the head of the Montevideo Coordination and Delivery Unit in UNEP, from Marine Collignon, who serves as the Deputy Head of Department on Climate and Environment at the French Ministry. And I'm pretty sure your minister just offered us $10 million in the last speech. I think you all heard that. And to David Migwi, who is from the Operations Coordinator for Wildlife Crime in the Environmental and Security Programme at Interpol. So, moving swiftly to question 1, please, and I'm going to call on Principal Secretary Sylvia first, please. Could you please share with us your insights on effective strategies, best practices and initiatives that have been undertaken by the Government of Kenya to address nature crime? PS Sylvia, please.
Thank you very much, and good evening, everybody. I will run through my ideas as I wrote them down. I think the first one is political goodwill, and it starts from the very top. In the early 80s, all the way to 89, Kenya faced a serious poaching problem, especially for rhinos and elephants. And I think at that point, the head of state, the late President Moi, decided it was going to be enough was enough. We had a population of only 300 elephants left in this country from a population of over 20,000. The first thing he did was collect all the ivory that had been confiscated from poachers or from different places or stored, and did the first public burning of ivory. And at that point, we started a campaign called All Tusks Belong to Elephants. And from that time, we've had several other public ivory bans by subsequent presidents. And so I say it starts from the very top, because once we have good political goodwill, it moves. Secondly, I think it's a community-based natural resource management of our biodiversity and wildlife resources from where I sit. Communities must benefit from the resources that they take care of. In this country, we have 8% of the country under protected spaces, national parks, national reserves, and forests. But we have an extra 12% under what we call conservancies, both private and community. And therefore, if communities derive benefits, then they have a stake in ensuring that crime does not happen, and when it happens, it's not abated or assisted. I think something else is partnership. We have a very elaborate, multi-sectoral approach to nature and environmental crimes. So if I say, for instance, the Kenya Wildlife Service that is mandated to take care of wildlife, we have officers seconded from National Intelligence Service, from the Directorate of Criminal Service, from the ODPP, and therefore prosecution becomes quite easy. Of course, we've had a lot of external and internal private and development partner support. A lot of money has been put from different places to fight nature crimes. We will still continue to do that. And when it is not just state-driven, when there are more people concerned about nature crimes, I think then it works. Finally, we have many problems. Corruption is top of the list. Like many other things, corruption sets us back. You find the officers, Kenya Wildlife Service or police, they are able to arrest, but prosecutors don't do their job. When prosecutors do their job, the judiciary is not able to do its job, and therefore it becomes a problem. But I think we have a significant problem in law. When you look at the penalties section of the law, under the Wildlife Act we have, and many acts across the country or across the region, the penalties are too harsh or too lenient. I think finally I would say that there is a notion towards what environmental crime is. And even at law school, when I went to law school, the units that were offered for environmental law were almost negligible. And nobody really is concerned about how serious is poaching, how serious is bushmeat. We have a serious problem of bushmeat today, but when a judge is presented by a person who was found with dik-dik meat or giraffe or impala, they think it's sustainable, it's small scale, and therefore they let it go. But that letting go makes it quite big. And eventually, if it's too huge a punishment, the judge feels that, how do I send a father or a mother of 5 to prison for just a small crime? So I think it's a nexus between the two. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Loads of important points from the... Missed me. Loads of important points from PS Sylvia there. Thank you. In fact, this morning I was at KWS with Minister Andreas and we saw the seized ivory and rhino horns, and it is truly astounding. But on the corruption piece, KWS have moved forward at a pace that I think everyone ought to be aware of and impressed by in their overall assessment of countering corruption is remarkable. So really excellent work done by the government of Kenya there. But as you say, it takes political goodwill. So asking the same question now, please, of Deputy Head of Department of Environment and Climate for the Ministry of Europe and Foreign Affairs of France, Marine Collignon. Marine, s'il vous plaît, you have the floor. And Sylvia did it in 5 minutes on the nose. So no pressure.
Merci beaucoup. Thank you very much, Excellencies, colleagues. Many thanks first for the opportunity to speak at that event. And so, yeah, my minister just before talked more about our international approach on environmental crime, and I will focus more indeed on what we are doing in France, what our efforts, and also at the European level. And I think one thing that I also remember from your intervention is the importance of a multi-stakeholder approach, and I think that's the same for us. That is something that has always been very important, because if we want to tackle this issue, we need to bring together all the different actors. And I do find it also interesting to have very different perspective in terms of what are the type of environmental crime that we are also facing. Even though they can also be similar in a way. In France, the main forms of environmental crime that we are seeing are illegal waste dumping and trafficking, and then illegal trade of species. We also face the issue of illegal gold mining in our overseas territory of French Guiana that contributes to the deforestation of the Amazon as well, and it also brings water and soil pollution. So at the national level, we are working, as I was saying, with many different stakeholders at different levels, with the capacity to monitor, document, and prosecute these crimes. One of the first tools that I want to develop on is a specialized police unit which is dedicated to tackle environmental crime. It's called the OCLAESP. It was created in 2004, and it was recently reinforced with broader competencies authorities. It deals with issues related to pollution, protection of flora and fauna, and which include trafficking of species, trafficking in plant protection, etc., and also the question of illegal waste trafficking. We have also strengthened the competencies of the French Biodiversity Office, which is our national biodiversity agency, and which is competent for administrative and judicial enforcement regarding violation of regulation on water, natural areas, wild flora and fauna, fishing, hunting, and anti-poaching. The action of both our special dedicated of these two agencies, dedicated police unit and the French Biodiversity Office, covers a wide range of crime that affects the environment. Finally, we have also reinforced our legal organization by setting dedicated environmental jurisdiction covering the French territory and encouraging special training for prosecutors, because as you say, judges need to understand better how they can apply environmental law and what are the actions that should be taken when it happens. At the European level, we are strengthening our joint legal framework to combat environmental crime. So at the European Parliament and the Council have just reached, at the end of last year, a provisional agreement on a revision of the 2008 European Directive on the protection of the environment through criminal law. The new directive will improve the effectiveness of the application of criminal law in the fight against environmental crime and contribute to achieving the objective of the Green Deal in Europe. Concretely, it has doubled the number of offenses currently recognized by the EU, including timber trafficking, serious breaches of legislation on chemicals. The new directive will also provide for tougher and more consistent penalties. It ensures then better enforcement by improving investigation conditions, protecting whistleblowers, and promoting enhanced cooperation between the competent authorities of EU member states at operational level. So to conclude, what we are seeing is that environmental crime are complex, they are usually multi-faced, and they involve many actors and networks, and therefore to tackle them, we need to use the same logic and mobilize a wide range of stakeholders, from policy forces to lawmakers, policymakers, but also civil society and business. And that's why we need a robust legal and institutional framework if we want to have a coherent response, and this is what we're trying to do at the French and EU level. Thank you very much.
Merci beaucoup, and once again, 5 minutes. I am super impressed. We're back in the nightclub, it seems, as well, which is kind of cool. So, from what you said there, Marine, you talked about multi-stakeholder approach, but I think also it's recognizing what the NCA is, why we're here, why UNEP are doing the job that they're doing, and why we're all sitting in this room this evening. And a big thanks to Elodie and her team who have made this happen. So, as we move on, we're now going to bring the questions, please, to UNEP themselves and then to Interpol. So, Aphrodite, I'm going to start with you, please, as the legal officer of UNEP. Could you please tell us and share with us how your organization, UNEP, and your department has been supporting member states to effectively address nature crimes? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Neil, and thanks everybody who are willing to miss the party and listen to us today. I will try to be a little bit as brief as possible, but address all the points that are relevant for our discussions today. Thanks for mentioning the directive. I think this is a highlight of the week. We all saw it on the news, and we all look at the European Union for the legislation they promote in this area of work. So it's UNEA, and UNEP is obviously the leading environmental authority in the United Nations system. And the law division, we use our expertise to support countries to build legislation and institutional capacity, as was mentioned before. So before I go a little bit into some more details on how we do that, technical legal assistance and institutional capacity building, I would like to highlight that criminalization of environmental offenses is one of the main trends identified in the latest Environmental Rule of Law report published in 2023 by UNEP. The report provides a toolkit of approaches to enhance implementation and enforcement, and it assesses the global status of key trends in environmental laws and institutions, identifying 5 notable trends, including the criminalization of environmental offenses. So what does this mean? It means that there is a growing importance that countries attach on treating activities that significantly affect the environment. So all these illegal activities in their legislations, they want to treat them as criminal activities very often. So they show that they recognize the importance of such activities and missions. Now, returning to our areas of intervention, we operate under the Montevideo Environmental Law Program, which is UNEP's flagship initiative for the development and implementation of environmental law. First, on technical legal assistance, countries seeking support for the review of their legislation can request assistance by UNEP, and we respond by providing expert support and financial assistance. And so we enable them to assess their existing legal frameworks on environmental law. This includes stakeholder consultations on proposed revisions, institutional mandates and sanctions in case of non-compliance. And in doing that, we always pursue collaboration with different entities, especially with the UN Office on Drugs and Crime when it comes to environmental sanctions in the legislation that we are called to review, or the Food and Agriculture Organization, who also have a very strong program on logging and fisheries, for instance. Just an example on this area of work, for instance, with the Safety Across Asia for the Global Environment, SAFE, UNEP and UNODC are working to assist countries in Southeast Asia to mitigate risks on zoonotic disease transmission, spillovers, in wildlife facilities. They help participating countries to develop a risk assessment and legal and regulatory frameworks. This includes reviewing the existing legal frameworks, identifying associated wildlife offenses, and providing recommendations on how to improve the biosafety standards. Then the second point on the capacity building, institutional capacity building. This item actually is of paramount importance because we can have the best crafted legislation in place, but if there is no right enforcement, then all the legislations remain futile. So we need to make sure that the various actors in the enforcement chain are aware, fully aware of their roles and tasks. So to do that at UNEP, we organize a lot of trainings for different professional networks. Thank you. I'm finishing. Almost there. For different professional networks, judiciary, prosecution, police, and of course the customs and the other frontline officers. And we heard from Elizabeth before. We run the Green Customs Initiative, which is an initiative of unprecedented for the past 25 years now in the work we are doing with the customs officers. So yeah, this is the bit that we do in this area of work with nature crime, and thank you all for being here today, and we hope to see more in nature and crime. Thank you.
Aphrodite Sasavkaristo Parapoli. So we're going to move on now to David at Interpol, and I think what you laid up perfectly for us was that we have to go from politics to policy to strategy to tactics to operations. So bringing to the operations piece, please, David, can you explain for Interpol what is it that you as an organization are doing and how do you bring that operational expertise to the fight? Thank you.
Thank you for this opportunity. I'll have a few minutes to highlight the extraordinary efforts that Interpol is assisting member countries to assist member countries in detecting, deterring, and disrupting nature crimes. As you are aware, we're talking about transnational criminal activities. Could be on fisheries, could be on pollution, could be wildlife, and all the crimes that affect the nature. And being the international nature, they require an international response. And Interpol brings together 196 member countries, basically all the countries in the world, the policing agencies. So we have the capacity to bring together enormous resources in terms of law enforcement. Could be police, could be environmental police, it could be wildlife agencies, it could be forest agencies, any law enforcement agency that is within the countries that have the mandate to fight crime. And with it, it brings together enormous data, the information. You realize that within these countries, each country or each region will be having a piece of information, piece of the puzzle. And taking into account that this crime is transnational, we have source countries, we have transit countries, and we have the destination where these commodities are ending up. So if we work in isolation, then we are missing a piece of the puzzle. And this is the advantage the criminals networks take, and they engage in crime and they benefit from that. So Interpol, through our national central bureaus within these countries, we have a massive database. Actually, Interpol is the only international organization that has mandate to store and manage criminal data. Nominal data, you're talking about suspect details, all the operations, the financial operations, their contacts, any data that you might think of. And this is a powerful resource for the member countries that they can access these databases, do searches on real time, and whether the criminals are passing through the airport, the seaports, or border points, they'll be able to be flagged out. So if a fugitive is wanted and is on notices, what we call the red notice for the wanted suspects, the agencies will be able to, the country authorities will be able to nab them and they'll face prosecution. Another support area that we are working with the countries, with our member countries, is providing mentorship, going beyond trainings, and mentoring law enforcement officers in these countries. You realize that we have different capabilities within regions, so we support them in mentoring. The other one is group operations, targeting at nature crime. It could be forestry, for example, working with partners. For example, I may want to mention the Enforcement Assistance Program. Again, it's tropical deforestation LEAP, courtesy of main funding from Norway, and implemented jointly with the NODC. You've been able to disrupt, detect, and detain all criminal networks that are involved in forestry crimes in Southeast Asia and Latin America. And there's the work that we're also doing for big cats in Latin America. So these are the support that we are giving to member countries. And the bottom line is, from my experience, is that information sharing, collaboration, partnerships are critical tools. We cannot do it alone. We require support from all stakeholders, including civil society, the business, or the communities. The objective of law enforcement is to prevent resources from being degraded. And in case a crime has happened, you go beyond the seizure or the arrest and investigate and bring the culprits to the book. So that is the role of law enforcement. Then Interpol is open to work with our member countries, is open to work with the civil society or the partners to ensure that our resource is not degraded and the criminals don't have a way. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. So, unsurprisingly, organised crime, terrorism, corruption are all linked. And it's about profit most of the time. And I think what you bring as Interpol is that international response, not just the mentoring and the training, but that strategic and operational analysis of intelligence. And it's all about the relationship, which is why we're all here tonight. So it's now my pleasure, folks, after this panel is now done, to hand over to Tai Teferai, the Senior Regional Director for Africa in Traffic, to talk about the voices of civil society and Indigenous representatives, and to get civil society perspectives on crime, convergence, and frontline defenders. So my big thanks to my panel, and thank you for sticking to your 5 minutes. Well done.
honorable ministers, dignitaries, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, good evening. First, I really like to thank you for seeking it out. It's your commitment to fight illegal wildlife trade, and this commitment can be shown by your resilience here. As mentioned, my name is Taye Teferi. I work for Traffic International. Traffic works to ensure that use of biodiversity is legal, sustainable, and safe, while at the same time fighting against illegal wildlife trade. In the second part of the panel, we have two distinguished panelists that will be speaking on the issue of civil society perspectives on crime convergence and frontline defenders. I would have loved to give a detailed biography of our speakers, but in the interest of time, I'll just sketch out a little bit. So our first speaker is Dr. Amanda Cabreo-Leroux. Dr. Amanda is a senior specialist of the Green Consumption Program at the Basel Institute of Governance. This is a non-profit organization dedicated to countering corruption and improve standards of governance worldwide. Amanda has a long experience in this field. She has worked for UNEP for many years as an associate legal officer, had been a visiting professor in University of Cape Town in criminology. Our second speaker is Ms. Joanne Carling, an Indigenous leader. She is Executive Director of the Indigenous Peoples' Rights International. She leads the effort to protect Indigenous rights and advocate for justice for the victims of criminals. She is has had a long service and has been recognized for her service, including a Lifetime Achievement Award by UNEP. I will pose questions to them, and if you indulge me, we'll try and summarize key takeaways from their presentations. But if we run out of time, then you'll have to do the summary yourself. So let me turn over to Amanda. Amanda, there is a growing understanding that nature crimes do not happen in isolation. Can you talk about convergence with other serious crimes? How should it translate in terms of finding more effective strategies to combat nature crime? You have up to 5 minutes at most. Thank you.
Thank you, Taye, and thank you to the organizers for the invitation. So yeah, understanding convergences is key to be more impactful. And there is now a good understanding of convergences among environmental crimes and also between environmental crimes and organized crime. Now, from this nexus with organized crime, we also need to increase our collective understanding of the convergence with financial crime and corruption. So talking about corruption is sensitive, it's uncomfortable, but it's also very needed. The environmental sector is not immune to corruption. And to work on environmental governance without a focus on integrity mechanism is, to say the least, a huge missed opportunity. All the funds dedicated to addressing environmental challenges risk being lost unless national authorities are able to mitigate their own corruption risks. So this is clear with environmental crimes. Corruption is a key enabler of this crime, and that reality needs to be addressed. Bribes to officials to turn a blind eye when poaching or illegal logging is happening. Bribes to avoid controls at borders. Undue influence to jeopardize the prosecution of key traffickers. Collusion to obtain fishing quotas, mining permits in protected areas. All of this and more is happening. But the good news is there's actually ways and means to address these issues. And one of them is to follow the money. So that means to start looking at environmental crime cases from a financial investigation perspective to identify all the individuals and groups involved, including corrupt officials. The international community has had milestone in this regard with recent resolutions. in the context of the COSP of UNCAC, the UN Convention Against Corruption, in the context of the COP of UNTOC, the UN Convention Against Transnational Organized Crime, and even in the context of the UN General Assembly, with a resolution adopted in December 2021, urging member states to address linkages between crimes that affect the environment and corruption and financial crimes, including money laundering. But in practice, there is still a lot to do, starting with building bridges between anti-corruption and environmental experts. This was a starting point for an initiative launched by WWF, Traffic, the Basel Institute on Governance, and Transparency International at the end of 2022. Our goal is to create a space for practitioners of the conservation community and the anti-corruption community to work across disciplines and address corruption as a key driver of environmental degradation, biodiversity loss, and climate change. This network is the Environmental Corruption Practitioners Forum, and we have more than 500 members all across the world. And anyone is welcome to check out our website, environmentalcorruption.org, and become a member. It includes various working groups on land corruption, on corruption and climate finance, on the use of open data, and follow the money. So the Green Corruption team at the Basel Institute leads that group on Follow the Money. This is indeed a pillar of our work as we provide technical assistance to enforcement authorities. And we do that by bringing this specific focus on financial investigation and asset recovery in environmental crime cases to efficiently disrupt illegal operations. So that means going after illicit profits that are otherwise reinvested to finance more environmental crime, and also going after the assets that are the instrumentalities of this crime, seizing the trucks, the boats, the warehouses of these operations. In addition to enforcement, we also work from a prevention perspective, because corruption is never just an issue of a few bad apples. It is a systemic problem in many parts of the world. It requires to change the minds and change the systems. And we help environmental authorities engage in this long-term change, mapping and assessing corruption vulnerabilities and helping them improve processes to limit the opportunities for corruption to happen in the first place. So I'd like to conclude with a message. If here in this room you are representing an environmental authority or a conservation organization fighting environmental crime, know that you can find allies in the financial crime and anti-corruption community. Talk to your FIU, your financial investigation unit. Talk to your anti-corruption authority, and talk to organizations like us already making those bridges. And let's change the picture together. Let's make environmental crime a high-risk, low-reward line of business. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Amanda. I'll just briefly say that you not only highlighted the crime convergence problems by bringing in the financial crime and the environmental crime together, but also offered potential solutions that can help us go forward with the aspect of follow the money and working with financial investigations. Thank you very much. Now, Joanne, if I may now turn to you, what actions should be taken to incentivize and enable indigenous peoples and local communities to strengthen as well as scale up their vigilance and fight against nature crimes on the front lines? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Let me first say that nature crime for indigenous peoples is an attack to our harmonious and reciprocal relations with nature. It is an attack to who we are because we live together with nature, and thereby we are against nature crime at the outset. Fighting nature crime is protecting our lives. Fighting nature crime is protecting our culture. So as a frontline, the actions that we need to incentivize our communities is one, there needs to be a recognition and acknowledgement of the roles and contributions of indigenous communities as guardians of nature in the fight against nature crime. There are instances that we are actually treated as enemies, when in fact we are the foot soldiers. The source of nature crime is coming from many of our territories, and we're the ones guarding, and we are the ones sacrificing our lives to protect nature, and that should be recognized and acknowledged. Second point is to support the legal recognition and security of our lands, territories, and resources. By providing that security, it enables us to be more vigilant in protecting nature and fighting nature crime. Third is to prosecute those that are committing the crimes. Because if we are monitoring, documenting, and reporting these crimes, and they get away with murder, and they even come back to attack us or kill our people, that will not encourage us to report and even document these cases. So the prosecution of those committing these crimes is very, very important for us to do our role, because it also provides more security for us to be able to do our role. Now, what are the other needed actions? My organization is now forming the working group on indigenous peoples and frontline defenders. And the actions that a lot of indigenous peoples on the ground are asking is support for capacity building to enable us to do more of the monitoring, documentation, and reporting. And in doing this, this capacity building requires training, especially on tools, on how to do, we have diverse language, and many of our communities cannot even speak the language or cannot even write. So we need tools. We can use information technology, right, to enable our communities to report, for example, voice, cell phones and voice, for example. So these are the possible tools to enhance our capacities to do monitoring and reporting. We also need support for our livelihood, because our communities are tied with our daily lives to survive. But if we are supported with our livelihoods, we can also better organize ourselves to monitor and report, to patrol, to be the foot soldiers, because doing foot soldiers takes time. And people need time to also for their livelihoods. Then we also, we need the security measures for those in the front line. We need support. We need to support those in the front line who are facing risk. And this is providing legal, sanctuary, and other forms of support to those on the front line, and also provisions for frontline defenders to be able to continue our work. So these are the critical actions that's needed to enhance the work and contributions of frontline defenders against nature crime. And finally, I just want to mention that we welcome this initiative, because this initiative also ensures the respect and protection of our rights as we all work together in the spirit of collaboration to prevent nature crime. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I know we don't have time, but I just only would say one thing. I am very partial to the idea of working with indigenous peoples and local communities, simply because those are the intelligence networks that can actually stop the crime before happening. So I think the points she has highlighted is very well taken. I'll stop here. I'll just add by thanking our panelists. Thank you very much.
The event has come to an end. We will show a video when you are getting ready to leave. But I would just like to thank all the eminent speakers for sharing their experiences, their work, and their views on the way forward. And this has been an event that has highlighted the gravity of nature crime, its interlinkages with other forms of serious organized crime, and the important role that governments, multilateral agencies, and civil society play in combating these severe threats to people and our planet. I know you are eager to go to the reception, generously hosted by the government of Kenya, our host government, and I hope that you will continue the discussions. There's no time for Q&A, unfortunately, but I hope you have ample time during the reception to continue discussions on these and other issues. So big thank you to the organizers, to my co-moderators, and to all of you for coming this evening. Happy reception. Thank you.